The global milk market is worth over $1 trillion a year. Nestlé, Danone, Lactalis, Fairlife, Parmalat, Horizon. Names on refrigerator shelves across every continent, built on decades of advertising and a wall of silence about what actually goes into the carton. By the end of this, you will know which 11 failed you and which 3 are worth buying. Documented lawsuits, settlement figures, criminal charges, not opinion, the paper trail. This brand's infant formula sat on shelves in 60 countries for months after its own internal lab flagged a toxin in the supply chain. Nestlé. Nestlé is the largest food company on Earth, operating in 188 countries. In December 2025, after internal testing at its Nunspeet facility in the Netherlands detected cerulide, a toxin produced by bacteria that causes severe vomiting and gastrointestinal damage, Nestlé waited until early January 2026 to begin mass public recalls. The affected products had been on shelves since months prior. 60 countries, 14 hospitalizations confirmed in France alone, 2 infant deaths under investigation, 1 linked to a recalled Nestlé product. The consumer watchdog Foodwatch International filed a criminal complaint in Paris naming Nestlé, citing breaches of European and national regulations. French prosecutors launched a criminal investigation into the delayed reporting. Nestlé's own internal timeline shows a 4-week gap between when the company knew and when parents knew. The company's statement, no confirmed causal link to cerulide. The parents' question after 4 weeks of silence, what was the link they were waiting for? This is not a new posture for Nestlé. In 2022, its Buitoni pizza brand was linked to 17 cases of severe hemolytic uremic syndrome in children in France, 3 of whom died. In each case, the product remained on shelves after internal concerns were raised. The mechanism is the same. No, delay, recall. The scale of Nestlé's global distribution makes every delay a planetary exposure event. This brand ran a price cartel for 13 years across an entire continent. Danone. Danone operates in more than 120 countries. Between 2000 and 2013, Danone's Spanish subsidiary coordinated with Nestlé, Lactalis, and others to suppress the prices paid to dairy farmers, sharing confidential purchase volumes, price data, and market surplus figures to prevent farmers from negotiating fair terms. In 2019, Spain's National Markets and Competition Commission, the CNMC, fined the group of companies a total of 80 million euros. Danone's own fine, 23.2 million euros. In February 2024, the Spanish National Court confirmed the cartel existed. 7,000 farmers then filed combined claims estimated at 800 million euros in damages. A Madrid commercial court found a 9.4% undercharge on raw milk prices across the cartel period. Farmers across Spain received, on average, nearly 10% less for their milk than a competitive market would have produced over 13 years. Danone never admitted wrongdoing. This brand's baby formula made infants sick across 83 countries. And the company knew the factory was contaminated before the first child was hospitalized. Lactalis, Parmalat. Lactalis is the single largest dairy group in the world, with sales of 30 billion euros in 2024. You know it as Parmalat, President, Galbani, Picot, Millimel. In August 2017, Lactalis found traces of salmonella at its crayon factory in France. It did not notify regulators. In November 2017, it found salmonella again. It did not notify regulators. 31 confirmed infant cases of salmonella poisoning in France were reported before the first recall was issued in December 2017. The recall ultimately expanded 3 times, reaching 83 countries and 12 million boxes of infant formula. 18 children were hospitalized. The Pasteur Institute confirmed the same salmonella strain had been present at the crayon factory since at least 2005. In February 2023, Lactalis and its subsidiary Celia Laiterie de Crayon were formally charged with aggravated deception, involuntary injuries, and non-execution of recall measures. The company was placed under judicial supervision with a bond of 300,000 euros. The case is ongoing. And in January 2026, Lactalis repeated the pattern, recalled infant formula under the Picot brand in 18 countries, with products that had been on shelves since January 2025, a full year before withdrawal. The same factory, the same delay, the same infants. If this content is documenting what the industry prefers, you not find, subscribe and drop your country in the comments below. This script draws on documented court filings, CNMC competition rulings, and Foodwatch International complaint records. Now back to the list. This brand charged a premium for humane treatment of cows. A multi-year undercover investigation showed workers using metal shards and screwdrivers on calves in 135-degree heat. Fairlife. Fairlife is a Coca-Cola brand that crossed $1 billion in annual retail sales in the United States, marketed on what it calls a commitment to the well-being of cows and the extraordinary care given to every animal in its supply chain. In 2019, an undercover investigation by Animal Recovery Mission at Fair Oaks Farm in Indiana documented calves being punched, kicked, whipped, dragged by their ears, and denied water in extreme heat conditions. The footage went viral. A class action was filed. In 2022, Coca-Cola, Fairlife, and associated defendants settled for $21 million. No admission of wrongdoing. As part of the settlement, Fairlife committed to annual third-party farm audits and invested more than $40 million in what it called industry-leading welfare standards. By 2023, Animal Recovery Mission was back inside Fairlife supply chain farms. By 2024, ARM conducted a 3-month investigation at Rainbow Valley Dairy and Butterfield Dairy in Arizona, both major Fairlife suppliers. The documentation: workers punching and whipping calves, botched euthanasia attempts, animals left to die in 135-degree conditions, carcasses dumped near waterways outside Phoenix, adjacent to a residential suburb and a public park. A new federal class action was filed in California in early 2025. The lawsuit also alleges Fairlife's bottles, marketed as 100% recyclable, contain opaque polyethylene terephthalate plastic with titanium dioxide, a compound classified as a contaminant in the recycling process. According to the filing, 0% of Fairlife bottles are actually recyclable. The company settled once, changed nothing. The premium held. The footage kept coming. This brand calls itself organic. The cow producing its milk has never eaten a single blade of organic grass. Horizon Organic. Horizon Organic is the largest organic milk brand in North America. Its pricing sits 15 to 30% above conventional milk at retail, built on USDA certification and marketing language about cows with access to pasture and a natural diet. The Cornucopia Institute filed documented complaints with the USDA starting in 2005, alleging that Horizon's corporate farm in southern Idaho, managing 8,000 head of cattle, confined animals in pens instead of providing the pasture access required by federal organic law. The Institute's investigation found milk production levels at the Horizon facility consistent with conventional concentrated animal feeding operations, not the grazing-based production organic standards require. The specific mechanism: cows milked 3 and 4 times per day on a grain-based diet produce at CAFO rates. A truly grass-fed organic cow produces significantly less. The numbers on the bottle cannot both be true at the same time. In 2023, a PETA whistleblower report documented cows at a Horizon supplier suffering from untreated diseases and injuries. Horizon cut the supplier. In December 2024, Horizon recalled nearly 20,000 cases of whole milk cartons in California, Nevada, and Arizona due to premature spoilage caused by heat damage during packaging. Horizon Organic. The label promises a pasture. The operation delivers a factory. This brand is owned by the same company that brought you a second-generation infant formula salmonella scandal in 2026. Dean's. Dean Foods was the single largest fluid milk processor in the United States, operating 57 processing plants and distributing milk under dozens of regional brand names from store to store in every American state. In 2007, dairy farmers filed a class action alleging Dean Foods and Dairy Farmers of America conspired to artificially suppress raw milk prices paid to farmers across the southeastern United States. The suit did not go to trial. In 2011, Dean Foods settled for $140 million. No admission of wrongdoing. 2 years later, DFA settled for $168 million in the same case. In November 2019, Dean Foods filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with more than $1.1 billion in long-term debt. The cause was not mismanagement in isolation. It was a structural decision made in 2007. Borrow $4.8 billion to pay shareholders a $15 per share dividend at the peak, then watch milk consumption drop 46% from its 1975 levels over the following decades while the debt held. The farmers who supplied the milk were the last to be made whole. They always are. Borden filed for bankruptcy 2 months after Dean. Same debt model, same dividend logic, different mascot. Borden Dairy has been in operation since 1857. Its mascot, Elsie the cow, was named one of the top 10 advertising icons of the 20th century by Ad Age. In January 2020, Borden filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, citing raw milk costs that had risen 27% in the previous 12 months, alongside a debt structure it could no longer sustain. The pension fund liability alone exceeded $33 million as an unsecured claim. Prior to bankruptcy, Borden and Dean together controlled 13.5% of all U.S. milk sales. Both collapsed within 2 months of each other. Both had paid dividends and executive compensation during the years their debt was building. The brand that survived a century and a half outlasted the financial engineering by approximately 15 years. This brand put almonds in milk it sold as a lactose-free dairy product to people with allergies, without mentioning the almonds. Lactaid. Lactaid is sold in the United States and Canada as a lactose-free dairy milk, marketed specifically at the population segment that cannot digest lactose without discomfort. The product sells at a price premium of roughly 30 to 50% over conventional milk. In September 2024, HP Hood LLC, the company that manufactures Lactaid, recalled 5 varieties of its 96-ounce containers across 27 states, after routine maintenance testing revealed trace amounts of almond contamination not listed on the label. The USDA classified the recall as Class 1, the highest urgency level, reserved for situations where consumption of the product is reasonably likely to cause serious adverse health consequences or death. People with severe tree nut allergies can experience anaphylaxis, a systemic immune response involving airway constriction, within minutes of trace exposure. No illnesses were reported before the recall was issued. The contamination was discovered during internal testing. The company issued the recall voluntarily. The label said dairy. The contents said otherwise. This brand sold Parmalat's parent company's milk for 8 years, while prosecutors were building a case for aggravated deception against that same parent. President is Lactalis' consumer-facing premium dairy brand, the label you find on butter and cream in the refrigerator sections of supermarkets from Warsaw to São Paulo to Nairobi. It is produced and distributed by the same company that hid salmonella contamination at the crayon factory in 2017, the same company that was formally charged with aggravated deception in France in 2023. The same company whose products were back on shelves in 18 countries in 2026, while the 2017 criminal case remained unresolved. The Besnier family, which controls Lactalis, agreed in 2024 to pay 475 million euros to French tax authorities to resolve a dispute over international financing structures involving Belgian and Luxembourg entities. Lactalis' operating method across 3 generations: acquire, scale, deny, delay. The president label communicates prestige. The corporate structure communicates something else entirely. The brand that is supposed to be sustainable cannot be recycled in a single country on Earth. This one is still growing. Fairlife's recyclable bottle claim. The 2025 California federal class action against Fairlife includes a second documented allegation beyond animal welfare. Fairlife markets its plastic milk bottles as 100% recyclable, a claim made on the bottle itself. According to the complaint and materials filed with the court, Fairlife's bottles are made from opaque polyethylene terephthalate plastic containing titanium dioxide. Titanium dioxide renders opaque PET bottles non-recyclable at standard and specialty facilities because the compound contaminates the recycling stream. The filing states there are no operating recycling facilities anywhere that accept opaque PET bottles containing this compound. 0 recycling facilities. 100% recyclable label. Coca-Cola's global sustainability commitments, published annually, do not include a footnote explaining why its fastest-growing dairy brand produces 0 recyclable units. This brand told parents in 100 countries it cared about their infants' nutrition. In the same month it knew its own supply chain carried a toxin it shipped product. Every major name on this list did. The cerealide contamination event of late 2025 was not a single brand failure. Nestlé detected the toxin in December. Lactalis' Pico formula, containing the same contaminated arachidonic acid oil from the same Chinese supplier, had been on shelves since January 2025, a full year before withdrawal. Danone blocked batches in Singapore and recalled Gallia and Bladina products in late January 2026, citing new recommendations from a European authority. According to the Food Watch, the contamination level in some affected products was up to 75 times higher than initially assumed. 3 of the largest dairy companies in the world, selling to 100 countries, all moved slowly. All used the same supplier. All let the clock run. The families who lost time they cannot recover were not in the supply chain decisions. They were in the feeding decisions. Now, the 3 brands that earn their place. This brand is owned by the farmers who produce the milk. Every purchase is audited. The cooperative structure is not marketing. It is the reason the quality holds. Arla. Arla Foods is a farmer-owned cooperative headquartered in Denmark, with more than 8,400 member farms across Denmark, Sweden, the United Kingdom, Germany, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. The cooperative structure means the farmers who supply the milk are the same people who govern the standards. There is no holding company extracting margin between the farmer and the label. Arla's Arla Gordon Farm Management Program mandates third-party audits of animal welfare, milk quality, and antibiotic use across all member farms. In Europe, Arla is prohibited by its own member agreements, not just by regulation, from using growth hormones or routine antibiotics. The organic line sources exclusively from free-range cows on 100% organic pasture diets, verified by EU organic certification and the Soil Association in the United Kingdom. The milk is tested for antibiotic residues at every truck delivery before processing, not at a sample, but at the load. Arla is distributed across the United Kingdom, Germany, Poland, Sweden, Denmark, the Middle East, the United States, and China. The cooperative model does not prevent all problems. It does prevent the specific problem of an absentee owner deciding that a delayed recall is preferable to a revenue disruption. This brand removed a protein that disrupts digestion in 35% of the population. No genetic modification, no additives. One structural difference in the milk itself: A2 milk. A2 milk is produced by cows that naturally produce only the A2 beta-casein protein, rather than the A1 protein variant introduced into most Western dairy herds through a genetic shift in cattle breeding over the past several centuries. Research published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition confirmed that the A1 beta-casein protein breaks down in the gut to produce a peptide called beta-casomorphin 7, which in some individuals causes gastrointestinal discomfort that mimics lactose intolerance symptoms. The A2 company's separation mechanism, testing cows at the DNA level and building herds from animals that only carry the A2 gene. No modification, no enzyme treatment, no additives, just different genetics. The clinical outcome for consumers who experience A1 sensitivity: reduced bloating, reduced discomfort, same nutritional profile as conventional whole milk. The A2 Milk Company is publicly listed, operates in the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, China, New Zealand, and South Korea, with distribution growing into further markets. It costs more than conventional milk. The reason it costs more is that selecting for A2 genetics requires testing every cow in the herd and replacing those that carry A1. The cost is real, and it is passed on honestly. This brand has been running the same standard for 40 years without a bankruptcy, a cartel fine, or a contamination indictment: Organic Valley. Organic Valley is a farmer-owned cooperative founded in Wisconsin in 1988, with a current membership of approximately 1,800 independent family farms across the United States. Average herd size: 75 cows. The cooperative's grass milk line is independently certified grass-fed through the Organic Plus Trust's Certified Organic Grass-Fed Livestock Program, a third-party verification program that audits farms against a specific standard that prohibits grain supplementation entirely. The fat composition of grass-fed organic milk, confirmed in a Washington State University study, contains significantly higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids and conjugated linoleic acid compared to conventional milk, a difference driven by the grass diet. A cow that eats grain produces milk with a different fat profile. The nutrition label does not tell you this. The certification does. Organic Valley has not filed for bankruptcy, has not been charged with cartel behavior, has not settled a contamination class action. In a market where the largest brands have done all three, 40 years of operational consistency is the most underrated number on this list. Here's the detail that does not fit anywhere else in this video. The cerealide contamination that triggered the 2025 infant formula recalls across 60 countries was traced to a single Chinese supplier of arachidonic acid oil used by Nestlé, Lactalis, and Danone simultaneously. One ingredient, 3 companies, 100 countries of exposure. The regulators who were supposed to catch this were not informed by the companies. They were informed by the companies only after the companies informed each other. The supply chain that feeds the world's infants runs through a single unaudited ingredient node, and every major brand on every continent is downstream from the same point of failure. That is not a supply chain. That is a single point of failure dressed as an industry.